All right, no worries. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm really happy to be here today and actually speaking in front of people. It hasn't happened in quite a while, so thank you for coming. My name's Vince Aletta. I'm the Director of Solutions here at Parsec. I'm here to talk to you today about Parsec, specifically for post-production workflows in the media and entertainment space. Just a quick slide about what we're going to be talking about today. We'll first talk about, who is Parsec, where did we come from? Talk about Parsec for Teams, which is our enterprise product. We'll talk about a few post-production use cases, go into a case study with one of our customers called MTI Film. And then lastly, I'll jump into a very brief demo, probably take about 5 minutes, and then I'll leave a little bit of time at the end for some Q&A. All right. So first and foremost, about Parsec. We were founded in 2016 as a consumer application. Back then, we didn't really have a solid revenue model. We weren't selling to businesses. We were primarily targeting consumers with the application. And we wanted to allow consumers to play games together or to be able to access their high-powered gaming computer from on the road. So let's say you're traveling or traveling for work, you're at a hotel, you have a high-powered gaming computer at home, you want to relax after your day of work and play some games. Parsec allowed you to do that. And then in 2020, something happened called the pandemic, and a lot of those consumer users were actually employees at game companies like EA and Ubisoft and some of the other logos that you see here. And they came to us in early 2020 and they said, hey, your product works really, really well to allow me to access my gaming computer from anywhere, but you're missing some critical kind of enterprise security and administration features that we'd like to see in order to implement Parsec for our business. So we very quickly pivoted from a consumer-facing application to an enterprise-grade remote desktop application that's used by many of the largest names in gaming, as you can see here. Really proud of this. Some of my favorite gaming companies are on here, but also very, very popular for post-production in media and entertainment. Funnily enough, by number of customers, we actually have more customers in the media and entertainment space than in the gaming space. And we're pretty proud of that as well. And by the way, I know there are only 2 or 3 media and entertainment focused logos on here, Encore Visual Effects and MTI Film, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I do have to add that there are quite a few large media and entertainment customers amongst our customer base that we can't use their logos here. All right, so in terms of the new world, the post-pandemic world, we've learned some lessons. I'm not going to read you the whole slide, but people want to be able to work from anywhere. I think that's pretty obvious at this point. We expect our tools to work seamlessly wherever we are, and we need smarter infrastructure that's not waiting for stuff like files to upload and download and files to sync across large networks. So I have a few favorite examples of how the expectations have changed and how people are using Parsec in this new world. One of those is doing pre-release gameplay testing, where journalists joined from as far as Germany to connect to computers in Seattle, and they were effectively able to play that game and review that game, and the distance really kind of disappeared as part of that process. We've also had post-production and animation customers connect from as far as Australia to Iceland, pretty much going all the way across the globe, which I didn't even think that would work that well, and it did. And then lastly, we have a few customers that are living the quote unquote van life, where they're traveling around the world, living out of their van and using Parsec to connect on a 4G or 5G mobile hotspot to go back to their studio environment and literally work from anywhere, including the side of a mountain. The benefits of using Parsec are no slowdowns, no VPN, and like I mentioned, no waiting for things that you didn't need to wait for when you were in the office. So Parsec really does give you that in-office experience in terms of your compute performance, regardless of where you are. And while we all kind of know that the stuff on this slide is true, right? The work has changed. It always helps to have a quote from a customer. So this is from Larry, CEO of MTI Film, which is a case study we're going to get into in a little bit. And he said that thinking past the pandemic, we've concluded that a hybrid between remote and on-premises is the new normal. The industry has evolved, and we built an ecosystem that supports a range of workflows. And this is what a lot of our customers are discovering, is that not only do they support hybrid work with Parsec, but it drastically increases the employees that they can hire, because they're no longer restricted to the metro region where they have their office. They can hire employees from pretty much anywhere in the world or anywhere in the continent that they're on So it really expands their reach to talent and makes their employees that they do have much happier because they're able to work from anywhere. All right, so I mentioned earlier that Parsec was created initially in 2016 as a consumer application, and then in 2020, we pivoted to an enterprise product. And as part of that enterprise product, security is number one, right? You don't want to use Parsec and then have there be some risk that your content is going to leak or that people are going to do things that you don't want them to do. So as soon as we started, really even before we started pivoting Parsec into an enterprise product, security was critically important to everything that we did. We also have specific features like 444 color mode, the ability to have virtual monitors and run on a headless machine, and drawing tablet support for Wacom tablets and Cintiq displays that are really important for these, enterprise remote desktop workflows. And we have some really, really cool data around remote and hybrid work. So you'll see here, 70% of someone's work week is approximately 70% is done using Parsec, which accounts to about 8.2 hours on the days that they use Parsec. So if you look at this, 8.2 hours, and our total weekly hours is, somewhere in the 25 to 26 hours range, that this is almost perfectly lining up with a 3-day at home, 2-day in the office hybrid work model. And we're really proud of this because it shows that when people are using Parsec at home, they're using it for their entire workday, and they're not having to jump into other tools because Parsec really does everything that they need it to do. In terms of post-production, what are our customers doing? Well, we like to say that we started with the hardest problem first, which was remote gaming, right? If I go back all the way to this slide, you'll see many of the largest names in gaming use Parsec for everything from playtesting to art and design to engineering and development and QA. And because we like to say that we started with that hardest problem first, pretty much anything else you can do on a computer is relatively straightforward for us. So it doesn't matter if you're in, Adobe Premiere or Avid or DaVinci Resolve, you can do your editorial in Parsec. If you're an audio person, you can use Pro Tools, Adobe Audition, and really any audio software as well, because we stream audio perfectly in sync with the video. We also have a lot of customers using Parsec for visual effects, which these days has a very large overlap with the gaming industry. I'm sure many of you know a lot of these tools are starting in gaming and then they're expanding out to be used in visual effects. And then because of our highly accurate color modes, we do even have customers doing things that were historically not thought to be possible remotely, which is color grading and color correction. We have a few customers where that's all they do is color correction and color grading via Parsec. And that's thanks to our 444 color encoding and our just accurate low latency, color reproduction in general. So talking a little bit more about Parsec's suite of features that are tailor-made for post-production workflows, we have 444 color. If I'm not going to get too much into the weeds on what 444 color means, but by default, let's say you're going to YouTube and you're watching a YouTube video, YouTube does what's called chroma subsampling, which means they throw away about half of the color information in the source video to make that encoding process more efficient. That's called chroma subsampling or 420 video encoding. Parsec defaults to 420 video encoding, but for those artistic workflows where color accuracy is critical, we have this 444 color mode that disables the chroma subsampling and means the colors that you are seeing on your remote computer are a 100% or near 100% to the point that you can't even tell the difference with what you would see if you were actually sitting in front of that computer in the studio. We also support streaming multiple monitors, up to 3 monitors at 4K UHD per monitor, with a goal to add 8K and HDR support by the end of the year. So today we're up to 4K on 3 monitors. By the end of the year, we're planning to be at 8K HDR on up to 3 monitors. And we also support what's called virtual displays, which means you don't actually have to have physical monitors connected to your remote machine. It can be in a rack in a data center somewhere, and we will virtualize those displays for you so that you don't have to worry about plugging in headless dongles or doing any other kind of complex configuration to support whatever kind of monitor layout your client computer is using. Critical feature for art and design use cases is support for drawing tablets. As I mentioned earlier, Parsec seamlessly supports any drawing tablet that uses Windows Ink or any Wacom tablet, including Cintiq displays with pressure sensitivity and tilt sensitivity. The idea here is that if you're an artist working from home, you should be able to use the same hardware and the same software as you were using in the office, but use it remotely and not have your experience impacted at all. And thankfully, that is a reality for many of our customers that are using Parsec for those art and design use cases or any other use case where you need to use one of those drawing tablets or displays. I mentioned a little bit earlier about the security controls that are built into Parsec. Parsec is always encrypted. There isn't an unencrypted mode. It's just always like that. We also use peer-to-peer connections. What does this mean? It means that your data is never visible by us. Your client computer is typically at home, connecting to your host computer that's in an office somewhere. They connect directly to each other in what's called a peer-to-peer connection. That means that even if Parsec employees wanted to spy on you, which we don't, we wouldn't be able to because we don't even have access to that video stream, that audio stream, your control data. None of that is available to us, and it is encrypted even if it were. We also have integrations for single sign-on providers like Okta, Azure AD, Google Suite, Duo, etc. So if you want to use the same authentication system that you use for all your other apps, you can also use that with Parsec. Really big, important feature here that I'm going to talk about in a little bit is instant collaboration. This is one of the big differentiators that sets Parsec apart. Like I mentioned in the very beginning, we were initially designed to let people play games with their friends. If you think about that, that's another word for collaboration. Connecting to my friend's computer and sharing their screen so that we can play a game together is really the same as connecting to my colleague's computer and looking at what they're working on in real time. So really, really big selling point for Parsec that I'm going to talk about a little bit more later when we get into that case study. As always, Parsec is a low latency, high frame rate streaming technology. That's why it works so well. And with that instant collaboration, you can do things like one-click footage review. So if you want to invite a producer, a director, VFX soup to come and review what you've been working on, it's really, really quick and easy to do that using Parsec. And I will show that as part of the demo. All right, so getting into our case study with MTI Film. I'm not going to read this very wordy slide to you. You can definitely read it on your own. But the big takeaway here is that MTI Film built a centralized, call it data center, with storage and workstations that could be accessed remotely via Parsec. One big takeaway there is that the storage is centralized. So you don't need to upload media, you don't need to download media, you don't need to wait for media to sync because your media is already local to your workstation when you connect. And then secondarily, what's really important here that Guthrie called out in the quote is that teams of 4 to 8 editors can work together as if they were in the same office, connected to a local storage device. So I mentioned that collaboration feature that's so critical in Parsec. This is a direct quote from a customer that talks about, hey, you can get 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 people all in the same editing session at the same time, which is extremely powerful and not something that most other remote access technologies can facilitate. So collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. Whoa, I hit the button too many times. All right, so live demo. Forgive me, I do need to drag my Parsec window over here, and then I'm gonna do this looking sideways. So over here, you can see that I'm already signed in. If I hadn't already been signed into Parsec, you would see a login window, and I could log in with either a Parsec account or using my single sign-on credentials like I talked about a little bit earlier. I've already done that, and you can see here, I have the ability to share out my current computer. So this is an Alienware that's sitting under here under the podium, and if I click share, it'll show me this URL that I can copy and paste in Slack or Microsoft Teams or email to one of my colleagues. And when they click this URL, I'll get a little pop-up down here in my Parsec app that says, hey, do you want to accept or reject your friend's connection? And if I accept their connection, they'll join my computer, but they won't be able to control it. And then I can optionally grant them keyboard and mouse control if that's something that I want to do. So that's how easy it is to share your current local computer with your colleagues, but we can also connect to a remote computer. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to connect to a machine here that's actually located in my house in Southern California. And we'll talk about how Parsec works a little bit. So I'm going to log in. Notice that it did give me access to the login screen. So you can reboot your computer, you can log out with one user, you can log in with a different user, and Parsec will allow you to remain connected that whole time. And that's because Parsec runs as what we call a system level service, which means it's always running in the background and it will let you connect to the computer in whatever state it's currently in. Now that I'm connected to this remote computer, up here, you'll see the Parsec overlay button. Now the Parsec overlay button allows you to control certain aspects of your stream. You don't generally need to make a lot of changes here because Parsec works really well out of the box, but there are a few important things that I called out earlier. So one of those is 444 color mode. You can see here I have that enabled. And if we jump up here to our top statistics bar, which is open whenever we have the overlay button open, you can see some cool information. So you can see I'm currently encoding 444 full range video using the NVIDIA GPU in my host. That's the reason Parsec works so well, is that we use hardware acceleration natively on the GPU. You can also see up here some latency and bandwidth statistics. So I can't read these very well, but I think that says like 7 milliseconds, maybe 7, I'm not sure, I can't read it, and then something in the 30 to 40 millisecond range. So the takeaway here is that decode and encode indicate how long the remote computer is taking to create the video stream, and then how long the local computer is taking to decode the video stream. And Parsec runs with what we call 1 frame of delay by default, which means that these encode and these decode processes happen so quickly that there's only 1 frame between what you're seeing on your remote computer and what the local computer is decoding. But up here, of course, we do have a network latency that's pretty high because I'm connecting from Vancouver to Southern California. So if you add your network latency, your decode and your encode latency together, that gives you your total latency. And like I said, we've had people connect from Germany to Seattle. We've had people connect from Australia to Iceland. And the only thing that changes there is this latency, network latency metric. The encode and the decode latencies are always going to be very low because that's why Parsec works so fast. And then up here, the bit rate, you can see that even though I have my bandwidth limit over here set to 10 megabit, I can set it to 25 megabit if I want. I'm only using a relatively small amount of bandwidth right now. And that's because there's not a lot of action on the screen. Parsec is efficient in its encoding, which means that when there's not a lot of action on the screen or when the screen is static like it is here now, it's going to use very little bandwidth. And then when there's a lot of action on the screen or a lot of motion, Parsec will use up to your configured bandwidth limit here to encode that motion. All right, so that's 444 color, and it can be toggled off and on in real time. So as you can see here, I just turned it off, and now up here we have 420 full range video encoding instead of 444 full range video encoding. And then down here, you can see that we are using the video encoding chip on the GPU. You can also see another metric of just how little bandwidth I'm using as part of the stream. It looks like we're staying below 2 or 3 megabit right now, which is expected because I'm not doing a lot of heavy lifting. What else? I did mention that Parsec supports Wacom tablets and Cintiq displays. And we allow you to select your stream resolution at any point in real time. So, I'm back to bandwidth, sorry. So right now I'm running at 1080p, but I can go all the way up to 4K. That's going to go ahead and change my stream resolution in real time to 4K. And then if I want to, I can go all the way back to whatever resolution I want. So Parsec, while it's really easy to use by default out of the box, we do give you quite a few controls if you're a power user to make Parsec work well for your workflow. All right, so I would love to, open up Fall Guys over here and play through a level, or maybe open up Avid and show a quick editing demo. But we are running short on time, and I want to make sure that we have, a little bit of time to allow you to ask questions. So I'll go ahead and I'll leave this stream up if there's anything that you have questions about here on the stream, or you can just open it up and you can ask anything that you want. All right, yeah, sir in the front.
Yeah, so if you're working with like a coworker or something like that, and the coworker is trying to does that just show up as like your keyboard? Like, do they control both the keyboard and mouse? Do you control the keyboard and mouse at the same time?
So I'll repeat the question for those of you that can't hear it. So the question is, if you're working with a colleague and you invite them to collaborate with you on your local computer, is there like 2 keyboards and mice, or are you guys kind of using the same keyboard and mouse? And it's the latter. So when it comes to gamepads, Parsec does what you described. It'll create a new gamepad for every user. But when it comes to keyboard and mouse, we don't do that. We allow everyone to use the same keyboard and mouse. You can, yeah. So with Parsec, our maximum default for collaboration is 20. But most of the time, people keep it below 10 for performance reasons. And that's because, yeah, so using the share link is one of the ways. Parsec also has an admin panel, which wasn't part of my demo. But as part of the admin panel, you can assign computers. So if we disconnect here, you'll see that this Parcade machine that I was connecting to, it's currently labeled as a shared computer. And what that means is that it's actually assigned to multiple users. So I can join this computer, or any other member of my group can also join this computer. So in Parsec, we have this concept of a group assigned machine, which is a shared computer that makes collaboration really easy. Or we have a concept of an individually assigned machine, which is like, you know, that one-to-one relationship between me and my workstation in the studio. But even if I do have that individual machine assignment, where I'm the only one that can connect to this computer and use it remotely without permission, I can still come down here on my remote machine. I can reopen the Parsec app. I can go to my computers tab, and then you'll see here, this Parcade machine is also available with the share link. So I can click the share link here. I can copy and paste this URL to my colleagues, and then they will join the same remote computer as I will. But again, in this case, I'll get a pop-up down here that says your friend or your colleague is attempting to connect. Do you want to accept or reject their connection? And then when they go ahead.
Does that only work for people who are using like the enterprise thing, or is it like, does it work for any of the?
That's a good question. And that's
accounts?
An important aspect of Parsec security. So when you're on, the question was, can you only share with your colleagues, or can you share with anyone? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So when you use Parsec for Teams, which is our enterprise product, we restrict who you can share with to other members of the team.
Only people on the team?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's for security reasons.
Yeah.
The administrators in those type of scenarios want full control, right? So if you're working on a pre-release game in your studio, you don't necessarily want, you know, an artist who's working on it that wants to share it with their friend to be able to just easily go here, click the share link, and send that to their friend, and now the friend can see your pre-release game, right?
Yeah.
So once you join a team, which is an organizational unit with an administrator or multiple administrators, your sharing capabilities are limited to other members of your team, and specifically other members of your group. So the takeaway there is that the administrators have full control over who you can share with and who you can't share with.
Okay. I've got more questions.
Yeah,
that's
keep
fine.
them coming.
Yeah. So if I have my own desktop and I've got like my personal Parsec account on that, and then I have a work Parsec account, and I have a laptop, is it possible to like, I don't know if this thing here has like where it stores like multiple accounts and I could just swap between
Like
the two?
fast user switching sort of thing?
Because right now I have to log out completely and then log back in and then use the authenticator each time I want to swap.
Yeah,
computers.
Unfortunately, that's the way it is. We've received a few requests like yours to support multiple accounts for like a consumer account and a Teams account. But for now, the only workflow is to sign out of your personal account and then sign in with your Teams account. And then when you're done with that, sign out of your Teams account, sign in with your personal account.
Is it also possible to just like make a friend with like my own account and then just connect to it like that?
But because your friend is probably not going to be part of that team, you won't be able to share with your friend, and your friend won't be able to connect to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way. Good questions.
Anyone else? No?
Any other questions?
I had another though.
Yeah, keep it coming.
Well, if you want, you can talk after as well if you want to.
Well, there's another talk I'm going to at 10:30.
Okay, do you want to ask your last question?
That's true.
I forgot it while I was asking the other one.
It's okay. If you remember it, come find me after. I'll stick around for a little while.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. And that goes to anyone. If there's a question you want to ask, whether it's about, you know, how does Parsec actually work under the covers? How do we get these super low latencies? I'm happy to talk about that, or really any other. Yeah.
You guys have it like, have you used like Parsec like with, I don't know if you talked about it earlier, but like, do you use it with like the cloud stuff like Amazon or something
Absolutely.
like that?
Yeah. So one of the greatest things about Parsec being software only is that you can run it on your workstation in the studio that's under your desk, or you can run it on a virtual workstation up in AWS or Azure or Google Cloud Platform, or some of the smaller options like Paperspace or Shadow Machine.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, you can connect to Parsec, connect using Parsec to a machine in the cloud, or to a local machine. We support both equally well.
Cool. Yeah, because I do use it for work and it works really, really well. But there is one thing that I found. I don't know if it's like on your guys' radar, but if I open up Houdini, like when I'm parseced into the machine, it just opens up or it crashes immediately.
So you're running into a bug with Houdini. We actually ran into that quite a while ago. The solution is to disable one of Houdini's like GPU methods that it uses.
Oh, okay.
Come talk to me after, and I can tell you how to fix that.
Because the other way that I was doing is I would actually glock into the machine, and then if I parsec in after I glocked in, it works.
Really?
I don't know why, but
I think that's probably because
some kind of bug or something.
It's already loaded the library that it needs.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay.
I hadn't heard that. I do know that we had quite a few customers using Houdini that had that issue.
Yeah, if you got a solution for that, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, I can email you the solution to that, no problem.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, William.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. I'll go ahead and disconnect here. Feel free to come talk to me after if you have any other questions. Thank you very much.